Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CCG Futures CCG stream we got going on here. It's the ACL, and it's an all-important match here. Joined alongside Colonel. Colonel, this is a big one, right? This is kind of for all the money, for all the cojones, because you've played basically a full regular season at this point. I know there's still a couple of matches, but with all of the craziness of the tournament, with all of the craziness of how everything kind of goes on and whatnot. For this, it's just as simple as you win and you're in for CCG Futures. If they are able to beat SCAD tonight, they make themselves into the playoffs. This is a squad that I know many people were excited for when they had first kind of announced it, and they're battling for their playoff hopes right now. Again, I'm Bonfire, joined alongside Colonel. And Colonel, it's good to be here on this was this a Friday night? I'm losing track of my days.
Sounds about right. Yeah, Friday, November the 3rd. And as you say, CCG Futures currently sitting at, I believe, 3-3 on the table, playing today against SCAD Esports for their hopes of making it to secure into playoffs. And yeah, as you say, of course, not the full season behind the team, but it's definitely going to be one of the more intense matches of the season for them so far, as everything that they've played so far, the 3 they've won, the 3 they've lost, it's all to get into the playoffs. And this is the match that they need to win to secure that positioning.
Yeah, no, they desperately need this. The SCAD team as well, seventh in the zone standings at 1-5, a 4-10 game record. Hasn't been this, the perfect season for them. I'm sure they wanted something more from this season. For CCG Futures, started off rough. Things looked a little tough. A 2-0 to Cincinnati Fear. They followed that up, losing 2-0 to Clown Gaming. Falling 0-2 in the first couple of weeks, it's just never what you want. And then they fell to 0-3 after a loss to Gentle Hearts Gaming. But it's been a story of two different seasons for CCG Futures, because since then they've looked fantastic. I think we've seen the CCG Futures squad that we've wanted to see. We talked about it. Actually, I was broadcasting for the ACL main cast, and we had kind of mentioned, like, this is a team that we want to see. This is the CCG Futures we were hoping when they announced their lineup. And on this final match day, this is kind of what we wanted to see out of this team. But the same thing is, you can't drop it at the very end. And as we get into bans, we're already starting to see a lot of that world's priority forward. A lot of these champions have been absolutely dominant. You think of the Rakan, you think of the Zaya, the Maokai, the Azir. Those four champions have absolutely dominated the world's meta.
And yeah, for sure. I'm definitely not surprised to see the Zaya band away. Ridiculously high win rate over at Worlds, as you mentioned. The Orianna band there coming in as the 6th band. Again, a very, very powerful presence in the mid lane. And a first pick locking in for Ashe. That's going to be an interesting one to see what they end up pairing that with, presumably down in the bot lane.
Yeah, you'd expect to see the Ashe down in the bot lane. It is very strong. I want to say for everybody watching, it's actually, so you see the names, Quacker Music, Rollick, our well-known CCG Futures squad. Unfortunately, just something with the graphics error, that's actually going to be on the right side. So if you see, you're thinking, oh, Baz B on the Ashe, it's actually going to be CCG or SCAD that's playing the Ashe. And then for the other side of things, you see, there we go. Now we got it all fixed up. So now everyone can see everything. Just making sure. On the other side of things, you talked about the Ashe kind of always being present, being a strong AD carry pick. I feel like we're just kind of seeing the reemergence of Senna as that
Senna Tahm
marksman.
Kench is a fun thing to watch, for sure.
Yeah, no, it's very, very strong. And it kind of came out of nowhere. Some of the buffs to her lethality, and suddenly it's this very, very strong bot lane. But now I got to ask you, the question is, if you're SCAD, do you try to take away the Tahm Kench to make it a more difficult lane for CCG?
As much as I think you want to get rid of the Tahm Kench, I feel like you just are not looking to play Ashe TK. Is it playable? I'm sure it is, but there are other supports in the world that can go with a Senna, and I don't think putting yourself at that disadvantage is worth trying to mirror the same thing. If you get a chance to ban it, I would say that you for sure think about taking away the Tahm Kench, as they do go ahead and lock in the Nico, but you would probably expect CCG to finish off their bot lane here, unless potentially they're looking at a pick that isn't Tahm Kench. Of course, they pick the Senna. That doesn't necessarily guarantee the Tahm Kench, but it will indeed be picked up there, as I can't really say that's all that surprising.
Yeah, in the lore, Senna is married to Lucian, but if we're talking about actual laning, I think Lucian's married to Nami and Senna's married to Tahm Kench. They both like their fish. because they both have synergies with other different supports. It's very funny. But yeah, no, Tahm Kench Senna, the fasting Senna, it's very interesting because I feel like we see that reemerge and fall out of the meta, but it always comes back, and it's the strength of when Senna gets good and very strong. You just don't need to farm as her, so you get a free tank as a support that gets to farm, get very strong, and Senna, even though you're not farming and still is technically a support, still does a million damage, especially late. So they are going to go with that Senna Tahm Kench bot. I do like the response from SCAD, though. I feel like we kind of brushed over the Vi Nico. It's a very strong mid jungle duo. You're able to lock up any member that you want for so incredibly long, and it's going to make this Senna's life very difficult. You're going to have to use the Tahm Kench ultimate pretty often to ensure that they don't get locked up with CC and fall early in the team fights.
And yeah, already looking at the second rounds of bans, you see the Darius, the Jax, the Olaf from our first set of bans, just banning out a lot of these powerful top laners. CCG banning away the Renata, just trying to deny presumably the Ashe lane that they're the most scared of. Of course, again, you're always going to have another support you can play with Ashe, but Renata is the one that they choose to take away as another top ban in the form of Gwen. It's going to get a bit tricky in the top side. You still have a couple of picks. You have the Cassante, the Renekton, but you're running out of picks, especially up in the top side, that, if you will, are prevalent in the current meta, things that you see super, super frequently.
Yeah, they're banning Quacker right now, and that is not surprising at all. Quacker is one of the league's best. We've seen some incredible stuff from Quacker in the top lane, and so they're saying we don't want to have to deal with the Quacker specials, the Olafs, the Dariuses, the Gwens, the Jaxes of the world. And so with all those banned out, Quacker's going to have to get a little bit interesting with the champion pool, but again, there still are quite a lot of prevalent top laner picks available. The Fiora left untouched, very, very strong. The Cassante, I know more tanky, but still has the opportunity to be an incredibly annoying and very strong top laner. I will say the Yone would be an interesting choice as well, alongside a Jarvan. I think he has really good mid jungle synergy, so it'll be interesting to see if they go that way. For SCAD, however, they're really doubling down on the lockdown with the Rel. I mean, this is Rel Vi Nico is very, very strong, it feels.
And yeah, they're for sure going to have a lot of CC. I mean, even the Ashe with the ult, just going to have so much crowd control, so much zoning in these fights. And it's going to be a bit of a challenge, although they do have a couple of things to counter it for the side of CCG, as the last pick will go over to Quacker. It looks like he is going to be opting into potentially the Renekton to try and play into this Cassante. Again, two of the solid picks, very, very strong characters in the meta. And one thing I want to keep an eye on is going to be that Syndra. Syndra, very high skill champion, but when piloted to the fullest extent, has the opportunity to cause some complete chaos amid team fights. And especially when you're fighting into such a comp such as the Nico Rel that are trying to get up in your face, the ability to zone those champions back could become vital in those later on team fights around the big objectives.
Yeah, it feels like CCG Futures have done a great job because you talk about laning and the way that you want your champions to kind of scale into the game. You need good pushing lanes early, right? You can't completely throw caution to the wayside and wait. And so they do have strong pushing lanes. They have a Renekton, they have a Jarvan. These champions will ensure that they don't give too much over early on. But when talking about late game, Senna and Syndra should absolutely carry for them. On the other side of things, SCAD, I think there's a little bit of a falling off concern. Ashe, isn't bad late by any means, but I think you'd almost always rather have a Senna with the range advantage. And then Syndra is just always going to bully Nico in the late game. So it does feel like CCG Futures are really excited for this game to go late, but they're not dependent on it. They don't have to sack a ton of dragons or sack a ton of Rift Heralds and towers because they do have that Jarvan and the Renekton to play through top.
And yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot of things that are going to be very exciting for this match that we have ahead of us. I believe we are going to go to a short little break while we wait for our production delay, and we will be back after that with the first match of this series.
Welcome back into the ACL. We've got ourselves a banger between SCAD and CCG Futures. Should be a good one. Should be a really good one. We've seen the drafts. We've seen how everything plays out on paper. We've talked about how we expect this to go. But obviously, as if you've ever seen Oppenheimer, Fury will only take you so far. You got to actually do the damn thing. This is game one of a best of three. And Colonel, I don't know, you could disagree with me on this one. I feel like game one's almost the most important game. Obviously, game three decides it if it goes that far.
Yeah.
But game one, it really sets the tempo for how this game's going to go.
Yeah, especially in a best of three as already actually a tiny bit of trading. I can't imagine anything serious is going to come of this. Probably just a bit of poke. Yeah, Quacker's going to come zone for Metro. But yeah, as you say, game one always feels super important, especially in those BO3s, as actually something might be coming from this. Tahm Kench is chasing up, trying to get a bit of progress on an acquired taste. Pushing forward, Nico's taking quite a bit of zone. It's actually going to be a Cassante flash forced out here, as SCAD already going to be losing out on a key summoner on that top lane Cassante. But yeah, game ones are definitely important, and CCG Future already off to a pretty good start, forcing off that early lane top flash.
Yeah, look, it's important as well, like you talked about, right? Getting that flash early, you know, off of that summoner, off of the Cassante, which is a tank, so I don't feel like has a ton of kill pressure, but it's still important because it is still Cassante, and so you don't want that potential threat, especially against Quacker. You know, I feel like we talked quite a lot about Quacker, this player, this Enigma, a very, very strong top laner, is probably going to be very happy about it because it gives them an opportunity on this Renekton to do just that much better. And as we kind of go towards the bot lane, we're starting to see the reason why Senna Tahm Kench is so annoying, and that's just because it's so annoying. It's such a frustrating bot lane to play against, with the poke and the slows and the fact that, you know, you don't even need to farm as the ranged marksman. Very, very frustrating to go into.
Yeah, Quacker doing a little bit of trading up in the top lane, forcing an advantage. He knows that he has the flashes. Also a bit of a fight bot lane. Janakar on the Rel is going to take a bit of poke, but will be able to get away with the crash down, as already a decent bit of trading. But yeah, as you say, this bot lane is so scary because of the range that these champions offer. Of course, Senna's attack range is no short joke, even at this early stage of the game. And Tahm Kench really only has to walk up for a single auto. Aside from that, he can just play with his Q, the tongue lashes. He doesn't really have to step up much further, as already a 17 CS lead in the top lane. Quacker is taking full advantage of everything he has been offered so far, and already coming up to a huge lead in the top lane.
Yeah, while we were in break waiting for the game to start, both you and I were looking at Quacker's page, the former Illini UFI player. Had to shout that out. I'm from Chicago. But we were talking about Quacker, this player, and both of us saw it. Renekton and hold on a second, actually, Metro has to flash there. Could be in danger. Looks like he'll be okay.
Yeah, it does look like he's going to lose out on a tiny bit of pressure in his jungle, but he's moved it back to the Wolves. He will be safe for now, as the bot laners will head back to their own house. As keeping an eye on this top lane, both the Renekton and Cassante quite low. Quacker going in for a bit more of a trade, is going to get some credit with that Ruthless Predator and the stun, but will not quite be lethal yet. Just a bit more poke everywhere, and a decent bit of kill pressure, especially in these solo lanes. Both top laners at around half health, and Ralik on that Syndra at around half health as well. Has to be very careful of this Vi, as Metro is actually going to take quite a bit of damage, but will get away with the flagpole. Quacker's rotated down, but Scatter the Weak is going to get the stun. Focusing now on this Vi, forced to flash away. Now it's going to be the Nico in this bush, as Cassante roams down. Quacker has to dash over the wall, but will not be forced to use a sum, and this is just a net positive for CCG. As in the bot lane as well, Senna taking quite a bit of pressure now from the Rel. Ignite is on, trying to run away. Ash is going to flash forward. Tahm Kench trying to do everything, but cannot make it happen. First blood over to SCAD, but Tahm Kench is not out of the woods yet. Flashing in, Tongue Lash going on Skypture. Can't quite get the kill, and he will get away safely if he chooses, but he's following forward. Janakar, 2 stacks of the passive, going to go away right before getting Tongue Lashed. And chaos across the map. I'm amazed that this only led to 1 kill across the board, and it will go in favor of SCAD's ADC Skypture on the Ash.
Yeah, and like you talked about, right? It was chaos across the map. There were people flashing across everywhere. Quacker had to dash. Everybody trying to get as many trades as they could across. But at the end of the day, it just was a little bit too far of an overstep for Baz B right there. And that is the downside to the Senna. Before you get that ultimate on Tahm Kench, you're just very low health, as this Cassante does have to be careful. Quacker's here, and that's just a dead Cassante.
Yeah. And yeah, just chasing him behind that tier 1, the pressure of the slice, the connection into the dice, straight into the Jarvan flagpole. It's going to lead to the death of the Cassante. That kill will go over to Metro. As the bot lane as well, Skypture hasn't gotten a chance to back yet, sitting on 42 farm and a first blood. They want to get that buy off so badly, but they have to clear these waves out before they can do so. And it's CCG's bot lane. They really want to do something, but they don't want to overcommit in case this Vi does decide to make the move to bot.
Yeah, and the annoying thing is, right, they are going to stack this wave. Like you said, the Ashe wants to get it back, but Basby died. This setup just doesn't need to back. Feels very comfortable sticking around, was able to get back and grab themselves boots. Obviously not very strong in terms of items damage-wise, but Tahm Kench Senna does have that damage, and so they don't really find a need to back. And when you're this Tahm Kench, you're not really concerned because obviously, like you said, you're kind of tanky. You're not really worried about getting the damage, and so they don't have to back. They can stick around with Ashe backing as well. They saw that on Vision, and so they're able to say, all right, we have the tempo advantage. We're going to be able to take this dragon. Now, the question is, with the first dragon, there's always the trade-off, right, on the Rift Herald. Rift Herald's not up right now, and so there could be a potential to first Rift Herald and first dragon without any trades as Quacker. He's just trading under tower. The confidence on this guy is incredible. Up 20 CS, has that assist as well, was able to grab themselves an Iron Spike whip. This is a very, very strong Renekton as, ooh, hold on.
That Nico ult would have meant certain death. The Plot Pop Blossom goes an inch away from Bralic, and it does just go a bit too wide. And another thing I did want to touch on about that top lane matchup, Quacker, with that trade under tower, got his second tower plating. So the top gold differential is absolutely massive. Has a bit of a fight here in the jungle. Raven Knight on the buy, jumping onto Metro. Metro will secure the camp, just trying to live, and he will indeed buy. Doesn't quite have the damage yet this early in the game. Only a Caulfield's Warhammer, and will not be able to get that kill. Metro evades successfully. And still about 1,000 gold diff for CCG is now a 3v2 in favor of SCAD. Senna and Tahm Kench are on the run. Basby's going to get hit by the buy. Ults in, trying to W back toward the tower, doing everything to get Basby out. Skypture trying to stall through these players. Now flash forward, trying to keep them in. Basby at 1 HP, can't quite make it out. Skypture gets the kill. A trade back's going to come from the tower, and Breezy gets a double kill, removing away both the buy and the Rel. Thanks to the tower shots, it was well managed by CCG, and even though they lose out on Basby, the AD Senna takes a fall. A ton of gold, 2 kills goes toward the Tahm Kench, and he'll be able to clean up these waves as well. Remember, this is a fasting Senna, which means Tahm Kench is the one that needs to be clearing these waves. So gold isn't really being lost from the side of CCG, as they just lost their support for a double.
Yeah, and it looked like it was a 3v2, but we weren't thinking about the real third member, which is the tower, like you talked about. The damage there was just so much. Janikar going in, but Basby was able to heal himself up just enough where they had to continuously dive, and like you said, that tower was crazy. Basby, though, might be dead there. Yeah, Basby is.
Yeah. Enchanted Crystal Arrow is on the other side of the map. Metro's gonna get a kill with his flash. Raven Knight is caught out on his Gromp and falls. And on the cross map, Metro's gonna find that solo kill. It just feels, at least for that bot lane fight, Basby gets hit by the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. Rel goes in, full tilt, Shattering Strike, crash down. It's just so much CC in that bottom lane fight. And Senna, level 5, doesn't have any real stats yet. Very, very hard to evade.
Yeah, it feels like Basby hasn't had the best of games so far, and we're seeing it, 0-3 on this Senna. I think both of us have said, it's not the end of the world, right? If you're going to be a marksman who's down this much, I think you probably want to be Senna most. But it is tough because this is one of your scaling options that you need to, at a certain point, get a lot of AD items, and they're going for it again in the bot side.
Breezy's gonna get away with the flash. Shattering Strike goes an inch wide, and they could try to fight this if they really wanted to, but with just the tier 2 boots, Basby only has a couple hundred gold worth of damage stats, so they will choose to back away. And that is gonna be a trade of the Vi ult for Breezy's flash. I suppose you'd probably be fine with that. You're normally willing to burn the ult for the flash, as it does give a bit of pressure in this bot lane, knowing that Tahm Kench doesn't have that for the next few minutes.
Yeah, we've seen Brave at Night across the map just making plays happen. It's actually been very impressive because normally Vi's set behind, but talking about junglers, Metro in the top side, again, pressuring this Cassante, pushing Mikuhi back. And if you're this Cassante, you are just not thrilled with the way that things are going. You're being weak-sided, which is kind of to be expected, but being weak-sided against Quacker feels just that much worse, especially when Metro has played such a huge part of it. BazB might be in trouble again.
Enchanted Crystal Arrow goes wide, but it will not matter. The teleport ruled by one on the Nico is going to come in. Pop Blossom is out. Rel is there in support. And with 4 players in the bot lane at the moment, there's just not much that BazB can do. Of course, not all 4 were focused on him at the moment. One was just getting there, but it's too many players for poor old Senna to get away from, as the kills will even themselves out now. 4 kills apiece for both of our teams.
Yeah, it's 4 kills, but, this is a big but, I'm talking like Nicki Minaj Anaconda music video big but, 2,000 gold lead for CCG Futures. So even though it's even in terms of the gold, I think a lot of that gold lead is in the top side. You've got a 30 CS, 40 CS advantage on the Renekton, along with 4 tower plates, has just done an incredible job of stomping in the top side, and it has mattered quite a lot. Now, Quacker can't die, though. That's kind of the one thing, is that when you have this gold lead and one specific member, if you lose that, or if things start to go even, then things get really difficult. But, you know, Quacker seems comfortable, but this is what I'm talking about.
He's going to dodge the buy Q with the flash, but Dominus is out. Quacker has so much healing. He actually turns a kill onto Mr. Gauhi. Now fighting forward. It's actually the Pi running through the life. Now changed over to the bot side. Breezy's going to try and slow down Janice Carr. Rel is on the run. Tahm Kench so close to getting that stun. Just can't quite make it happen. Going to go wide with the tongue lash again. And that kill on the top side, very well played by Quacker, as you say. Dying with that Renekton could spell to be disastrous. He simply says, I'm Renekton, I have Dominus, I have a Gore Drinker, I'm fighting this. As on the bottom side, Metro now diving in with the Cataclysm is simply going to lead to a pick, as a bit of gold is going to fall back down to BazB, as that kill is going to get picked up on the opposing Ashe. And it's going very well across the map for CCG right now, winning 1v2s top side, winning fights on the bottom laners. Everything is as you dream it. Almost, I believe, a 4,000 gold lead now in favor of CCG.
Yeah, CCG Futures have just done a fantastic job recognizing where they're going to get their lane leads from. You know, we talked about the top side, having that push, being a strong way for them to get ahead in this game. They've been focused on ensuring that Quacker feels comfortable. Metro's played a lot of time in the top side. Because of it, the Senna Tahm Kench has kind of been left to their own devices, and you know, as we saw, it has meant that the Senna has had to take four deaths. But I think you're probably pretty happy about that, because at the end of the day, you still have a great top side, and then Metro is able to help out his bot lane. He said, you know what, I've ignored you for too long. I'll come drop a Cataclysm on top of the Ashe's head, get you a kill back in your favor, and the entirety of a turret before 14 minutes. And so you get all of those plates, and so they've just done a really great job recognizing, hey, what is our strongest lane? Where do we need to play towards? And I think Metro's had a good game of, yeah, Brave at Night has been all across the map on this Vi. It's been invading, has helped get at least 3 or 4 kills on the bot side. But it does feel like every time Metro is somewhere, always making something happen. And, BazB.
BazB's kind of caught out. BazB walking a bit too far forward, no vision. And will end up walking into the Nico, and I believe the Vi will simply be picked away. That's just wrong place, wrong time for BazB.
Yeah, without vision, especially on a Senna, there's just no way you can do that. I think there might be some words from the coaches after that one at the end of this game, because you should never be caught out there. And Ruled by One also kind of realizing that as well, does get the backstop, but has the rest of the friends nearby. But yeah, for BazB, it has been a tough game on this Senna. I think you're probably, you know, saying like this is an AD carry moment so far, as Metro holds the second.
And yeah, there's 2 fights here very close to the mid lane. Senna's going to be getting the kill on Skypture. Skypture will fall, and Metro going to get a nice little sidestep. Ruled by One will escape from the Syndra for a moment. Very low health. Tahm Kench diving on. Quacker joins. Quacker's going to get the kill. Now Metro, Cataclysm onto Brave at Night. Going to have to try and stall, but cannot fight it. Going to drop the ult for the team to pass by. Now it's 3 players hunting down Brave at Night. Going to simply Vault Breaker away, but it's going to be followed. Metro will get the tag. Execute is not on the table for Brave at Night. Now it's going to be another Vault Breaker away, and actually played a little bit of a game game of Chase. Not completely safe yet, but escaped for the meantime. Quacker, though, is going to find the Vi, going to get smited by the Vi, trying to run away. Quacker does get the stun in time. Dominus comes out, and to such a small amount of health to survive. Tahm Kench going in. Can the Tongue Lash commit? The Tongue Lash cannot find it. Quacker now is going to try and follow. Finds it up with the Q. Cull of the Meek to remove the Vi. A very solid effort from Raven Knight. Put in the effort, had a bit of a time to run, just isn't going to make it out at the very, very last second. And it does get picked away. Very, very fun. Almost like cartoonish chase.
Yeah, it is back and forth. You get the Benny Hill music, continuing to fight across the map as we're going to push this roll back. Should be able to survive, and indeed they are. This game has been all over the place. There's been skirmishes everywhere. I think with both of these teams, we talked kind of a lot about the scaling aspect. We talked about, what lanes are going to be good. We didn't really mention a lot about the team fighting, other than the fact that SCAD had a fantastic team fight. But they just haven't gotten into a 5v5 team fight yet. They've been skirmishing across the map, and if we're just talking about skirmishing power, yeah, I'll take the Fed Renekton and the Tahm Kench Senna every day of the week. And so it does feel like SCAD needs to slow this game down right now, because at this moment, they're just continuously giving over leads. They're fighting again.
Yeah, it's another fight. They do have a couple of outs around. Cassante is going to get the shutdown onto Ralik as they lose out their Rel, but a couple of these players are very low. Cassante now a double kill for him, fighting forward, ruled by one, fighting forward with this little clone, as it is Magauhi in a 1 versus 3 on the Cassante. If any champion can do it, it's not going to be this one. Taken away by Quacker. 5-0-1 on the Renekton, as the fight will go in favor. 4 kills to 2 for CCG. I see what they were trying to an extent, but SCAD are just not able to finish out the execute. They had a good pick or two with that Cassante, especially on the Syndra, but it's just not enough. You can't take a full-scale fight, especially into this Renekton, Jarvan, and Senna.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was literally just talking about. I was saying they need to slow the game down. They need to wait till they have, Nico Flash, and they can get the Vi ultimate up, and then they can take a 5v5 team fight. But I don't like to call games early. I think craziness can happen at any point on Summoner's Rift, but at this point, you're down 7,000 gold to a Senna Syndra. This one feels pretty much wrapped up with the bow. Anything can happen, obviously, but barring any critical mistakes from CCG Futures, it really feels like they're in a fantastic position. They have 2 dragons, so they don't need to worry about a soul potentially ruining the game for them. They've got a Fed Renekton to be able to frontline all of the damage that SCAD throws at them. And then the Senna and the Syndra, even though they're continuously getting dived, they're continuously losing their lives. They are all 7 deaths are on the 2 quote-unquote carries. They're not really too concerned. As the game goes on, they'll be in a comfortable position. And I don't know, if you're SCAD, you're just taking these fights that I'm not sure you want. Quacker, let's see how long Quacker lives here. It's 1v5. Let's see how long Quacker lives.
Slicing and dicing. Dominus is out. Pop Blossom is going to be solo on to this absolutely tanky Breezy.
No damage.
Ralik is going to pick up the first kill, a second kill. Quacker going to finish off a third. And now inside of the Tahm Kench, Mr. Agauhi, nothing he can do. Taken down. It is such a hard call to make, because if you lose this dragon, it feels like you're just going to keep sliding behind and sliding behind. But at the same time, there's just no chance you can ever win it without a miracle. And the miracle did not come. CCG Futures now at a 10-kill lead, just under a 10,000 gold lead, a 3-dragon lead. They've gotten both heralds in this match. They still haven't lost a turret, where they're just about to take, I believe, their 5th of the match. It's just such a hard match, as Quacker's taking a bit of damage in the top side, slicing, dicing, trying to get away. Might actually die to the Vi, trying to use up this healing, getting chased, has the big Blast Cone, but Raven Knight completely misses. Blast Cone gonna go by, and Skypture is gonna pick up that bounty. 1,000 gold goes to the Ash, as potentially a slight look at a way back into it, but it is gonna be a very uphill 10,000 gold deficit hill for SCAD to climb.
Yeah, Quacker, maybe a little bit too far there, potentially, but I think at this point, you're not thinking that we lose the game off of that. Does end up falling. Did get the tower, though, the one stipulation there. Like you talked about, maybe there is a world, right? You do have a 4-3 Ashe. That's not nothing with a 150 CS, second best or third best in the game. So it's not terrible per se, but you do have to get through a Tahm Kench, a Renekton, and a Jarvan before you even get close to a Syndra and a Senna. So that's gonna be tough. That is not exactly what you want to see. Still a 9,000 gold lead, and that pick on Quacker is great, but they're not able to snowball it into any objectives, and so it's only a 1,000 gold that you're grabbing, and Quacker doesn't really feel like that means anything towards his base. He wants to continue to go forward. Raven Knight's going to have to flash, and they are just having to disengage as 5 members from their own jungle. Kind of tells you where this game state's at.
And yeah, for sure, Quacker decided he was getting a bit bored of not fighting for half a minute, so he decides he's gonna walk up to the jungle, face on the entirety of SCAD, not necessarily on his own, but I feel like he was ready to go on his own. Like, yeah. I feel like if his team wasn't there, I think he still might get that deep in the jungle. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think Quacker is ready to take on the entirety of the world right now as, hold on a second.
A combo is coming in now. Sentinel's going to try and peel for them. Badsby going to get a hit on Janus' car. Pop Blossom comes out. It's going to stall up Quacker for a bit. He might die here, taking quite a lot of damage. Does indeed fall to the Nico, but now it's Cataclysm onto Skype. The Cataclysm goes down immediately after the kill, and now it's Cassante versus 3. Badsby's at 1 HP, but won't get taken out. Cassante missed one critical ability. It didn't hit Badsby, and that is going to leave the life of Senna, as it is going to be a wipe, an ace for the side of CCG Future. They're going to tank up this mid inhibitor turret, and it will fall. They'll take the inhib, and they won't have time to end, but they'll get this inhib for sure. Baron's up. They could potentially look to move to it.
Yeah, they can just set up vision, deny vision from SCAD. There's going to be supers coming through the mid lane. I'm actually going to say that was probably the best potential fight that SCAD could take right there, and it was still a 2 for 5. Things looked great, you know, they were able to kill both of the tanky members. They focused everything on Quacker and Breezy, and they were able to kill the Tahm Kench alongside the Renekton, but when you're killing those...
Double knock up, Metro's going to knock up 2. Vi will fall, Rel will fall. They blocked up. They thought they could get close to their own former Tier 1 tower, but the Tahm Kench dashing in, Jarvan over the wall, a double kill, especially without a jungler. It's going to be a pretty free, not dragon, that's a Baron for CCG, as they're looking for a bit more than a dragon at this point with that pick. 14 kill lead, 12,500 gold ahead. CCG are definitely the team I'd be betting on at this point of the match.
Yeah, if you were betting on the other team, I think we would have to have a discussion about gambling, because this one is, I don't know, 5,000, 50,000 to 1 odds. You're up to 14,000 with the better scaling.
I will put $1 on SCAD.
I would not even do that, because I could use that dollar on something else. I don't know. Look, like I said, I never want to call a game before it's over, but on occasion I will. This game is over. This is a stomp. SCAD just didn't really find the engages that they want. They didn't get to that team fight where the Nico could potentially blow up the carries. You have the Vi. You can just focus everything onto Rollick and Badsby and deal with the Renekton later. They continuously have to throw everything in their arsenal, the tanky members, which means that everybody else just gets the free hit. And they just didn't really get what they wanted out of this game. But it is a best of 3, so they still have an opportunity to bring this back. For SCAD, they're playing for nothing but their own honor here. Playoffs out of the picture for them. They're 1-5. They're not making playoffs. But for them, they can deny somebody. I don't think they're too mad by that.
Blossom comes out now. Nico's diving in. They had a good engage, but it's not going to matter for now. Skype spraying on with the Ashe. Full health on that Ashe, spraying in a ton of damage. Quacker's taking a ton, flashing backwards, but with Quacker's own flash, the player will fall. And no matter how many autos Ashe can get off, how well the Ashe can kite, it's not going to make up for, what are we looking at now? A 17,000 gold lead, as the Nexus will be hit half HP, quarter HP, and with just an inch left to go, CCG will close out game 1 in very dominant style.
Yeah, that one was kind of a stomp right there. Wasn't very close. A 24-minute win right there for CCG Futures. And I think that if you're CCG Futures, you are beyond thrilled about that, because you've had these 3 great wins in a row. You've gotten your season back on track. sometimes some teams will fall at the finish line, and we'll say it's pretty much a given. It's a 1-5 team, yada yada yada. If you're CCG Futures, you're glad because you've gotten that monkey off your back. You've already gotten a 1-game lead. You have an opportunity to close it out in 2 with the sweep. All go home for your Friday night, have a nice little weekend. So I think that's where their minds are at. But yeah, that one was a bit of a stomp, and it looked good for SCAD at certain points. I remember when it was 4-4 in kills, and we were talking about how this Ash could be potentially a huge member. But at the end of the day, they were losing too big in the top side. They were, ended up transitioning that to the bot side, and it kind of all went from there. So CCG Futures are able to grab that first win.
And yeah, one thing to look for, especially in the side of CCG, as dominant as the match was, it wasn't completely perfect. You think back, the thing that keeps replaying in my mind while I was thinking of what to say is the death of Basby in the top river incident. There's definitely things, for both teams as well, not just for CCG, of course, that they can look back and learn from. And it'll be very interesting to see which of these champions do or don't make it through the ban phase for our second game.
Yeah, I will have to see, what the pivot is because I feel like if you're SCAD, normally when you lose a game, there's always kind of the response of, yeah, we can't really deal with that again. That was too difficult. Or, yeah, our game plan doesn't really allow for, a Renekton or a Jarvan. But if I'm SCAD, I'm looking at the entire draft and I'm thinking, I don't want to see any of these champions again. So I will have to see, where they kind of place their bans because that was just kind of a wipe across the board. Things just didn't look great, and then they kind of have to kind of think about their strategy again. Of we're going to put Baz B behind and play through our bot lane. That obviously didn't work. I mean, it worked. They did put Baz B behind. They did play through their bot lane, and they lost the game tremendously because of it. And so I think even worse than like, oh, it was just a champion diff or a draft diff is I think it was a strategy diff, which is a little concerning because if you're SCAD, the idea that you can have a 3-0 Ash and you still get stomped like that, it's a little concerning if I'm being honest.
And yeah, speaking of the things we're looking for in the draft, we are going to head to a short little bit of a break, and we will see you on the other end with our draft for Game 2.
Welcome back to CCG Futures here on the CCG Twitch channel. We're getting straight into Game 2 draft. After a pretty dominant Game 1 win from CCG Futures, they look to punch their ticket into the playoffs and the postseason with a potential win in this second game. But it looks like across the board, things are looking fairly similar to what we saw in game. The one big difference that we're seeing right now is the Rakan still left up for SCAD, and they're going to first pick that Renekton away from Quacker. They don't want to have to see it again.
Very, very funny to me just to first pick the Renekton. You didn't have the room to ban it. As we see, and especially you mentioned looking at his page, Darius seems to be a big one that he's played, so they got to make sure to ban that. They banned the Xayah. Of course, Xayah is a simply very, very good champion. Don't want to let that get to the other team, as I believe that's a Rumble hover, and it will get locked in. It'll be exciting to see a bit of Rumble gaming here for our second match. As what do you think we're gonna see throughout the rest of this draft? Any exotic picks that you think might get brought out here?
I think that we could potentially see some exotic picks, but I think across the board, probably a lot of the same. I like the Rumble, very good into the Renekton. Every time Renekton wants to drop his full combo, Rumble just able to turn the flamethrower on and ensure that the trades are fairly even. And then they're going to pick that Senna, which kind of does, spell that they might go the same way with their Senna Tahm Kench in the bot side. So we're seeing something similar to game one. Obviously, the big difference is they're not able to pick up the Renekton. Something to keep an eye on as well is by picking this Rumble this early, they probably won't have the Jarvan available for them. So I felt like that was a very strong Jarvan game on Metro. We're probably not going to see that again unless SCAD lets it go through bans or they don't pick it themselves. But I would be very surprised if that happens. On the other side of things, SCAD's going to pick up the Callista, which has been very, very high presence at Worlds. My personal opinion is I don't think it's a very good AD carry right now. I've yet to see a game where Callista. I would rather have a Callista than really any other AD carry, but maybe this is the game that I'm turned to the evil side of the Callista doers.
And yeah, on that same side of the draft, I suppose they're gonna pick up that Oriana. It was banned in game one. That is one of our most prevalent characters, especially at Worlds. And it's gonna be very interesting to see if they can perform as well on that Oriana pick. I'll say it, I think the Nico did decent in game one. It wasn't enough. They didn't have the stats. The team as a whole was just a bit too far behind for it to matter. But it'll be interesting to see it ruled by one changed over. And as for CCG, they will indeed round it out with that Tom Kent once again. So we'll have to see what SCAD want to bring into it. Of course, they have the Callista already, but they will have to grab another support to go into that Senna TK lane.
Yeah, they need to see what works for their. That's a Graves ban, which is crazy. Okay, so they're gonna ban out the Graves, who I think by all intents and purposes not really in the meta right now. Still Jarvan up. If they leave a Jarvan up with a row, they're asking for destruction. Oh my goodness gracious. Okay. This is the easiest pick of all time, CCG Futures. I mean, unless you disagree with me, but I think a Rumble and a Jarvan is just a total slam. You drop the Cataclysm and the Equalizer, everybody gets burnt to a crisp. It's a fantastic grab right there, and SCAD let it go through. So they're obviously more concerned about the Graves than the Syndra.
And yeah, I believe I heard it first years back. I want to say maybe the first time was back when Rumble was in the meta, back when he was a jungler and people were playing Jarvan in lanes, and they called it the Spicy Ramen Bowl. And they say the Cataclysm is the bowl and the Rumble is the spicy. And it is going to be a Wukong pick for the jungle. And then they have their support left over. At this point of the draft, with one pick left, I think I'm just in favor of CCG. They have that Senna TK that looked pretty decent in the last game. They have our spicy ramen bowl. And then they really have their pick of the litter for what they want to bring to that mid lane.
Yep, I mean, like you said, they can go anywhere with this. Really, I think that I mean, I'm looking at the champions and I'm thinking like, are they good? Are they bad? I don't think anyone's that bad. Talia's delicious. I think Talia would be great. I was looking at the Silas is not a bad option. I just don't think there's really a wrong avenue. They are going to go with the Talia, which adds some I don't know some rocks to the spicy
Chunks, yeah,
ramen.
some chunks to the what's chunky that you would put in ramen? I
Uh,
don't know. I don't eat
I
ramen.
guess some scallions or some spam, maybe. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter. I mean,
you got some seafood in the bowl as well in the bottom lane. This is a whole
exactly.
meal.
But
CCG have
I
drafted us
know
up a meal. I don't what is
they've
Senna?
got
Senna uses
they've
like an
got a
energy
dinner.
gun. She's what's eating it. I don't know.
Yeah, Senna's it's like a spoon. You know, her gun
Oh,
is the
okay,
spoon to
the
eat it all.
railgun spoon. Of course, of course, of
Right,
course.
exactly, exactly. No, it's
Emilio.
but like you said, I mean, it is just it's an incredible combo. I mean, it's such a good combo, and I think that if you are SCAD, you've got, potentially the better champions in terms of the meta. You know, Kalista highly prioritized, Oriana probably the best mid laner in the game, Renekton very strong on the top side. But you've kind of like as a whole not giving yourself a lot of great synergies. Is the Kalista going to throw the Milio into the team? I'm confused. It's the Renekton Wukong in the front, but who's peeling the Kalista? As a whole, though, like you said, like TCG Futures just have a lot better synergy, and so if you're SCAD, this is potentially your last game of the season. They're hoping that this draft will carry them onto the across the finish line. But for CCG Futures, yeah, we've kind of talked about this. This is a whole deal that they've got going on here. If you're CCG Futures, screw the early game. We don't really care about that. You know, we do not want to skirmish. The team fight is where we make our money. That's where our bread and butter is, and they have one of the best team fights in the game.
And yeah, it'll definitely be a fun one to watch. SCAD gonna spend their time in this early game trying to figure out what they need to do to get ahead. And while SCAD do their strategizing to be our meal of the day, we are gonna head it to another short break, and we will be back with our beginning of game 2.
Welcome back to CCG Futures versus SCAD. Game 2 getting kicked off for CCG Futures. It could be heaven, could be the turnaround after an 0-3 start to making playoffs. One of the more improbable comebacks we've seen from a team. And for SCAD, this could be the final game we see them play. But we'll have to see as we get into this early game. Both teams jostling for control.
Yeah, taking a look around, you already see Jarvan off to a massive CS lead. I mean, really, Jarvan is just outmatching this entire lobby, plus 10, 1 CS advantage to everybody in the lobby. I mean, basically the game's already sold. I mean, Jarvan's up 10 gold.
It's true. It's true. This game is over. A little bit of banter between both of these teams. Good to see that, even in such a high pressure situation for CCG Futures, they're still able to have some fun, still able to joke around with each other, which is nice to see. And then, yeah, like you said, plus 10 gold. This Jarvan already massively ahead, as we're kidding, obviously. But it is still nice, the 10 gold doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah, already a tiny bit of poke coming out from Rowlick, trying to set up all of these little rocks around everywhere, trying to get the Ramen Bowl prepared, as will get a little bit more poke. Of course, not going to be super substantial. The level 2 will come for the Orianna, and a bit more poke as well. Quacker with the Rumble Flames sliding forward, slice and dice. Gaohui will get a little bit of poke, but again, level 1, nothing super meaningful, as teams will just take a bit of time. Senna, Tom Kench already getting onto the soul collection. Senna, I believe I've already seen pick up 2 or 3 souls in just the 5 seconds that we were down there, as Rumble beats the level 2. CCG already 100 gold up. They are up about 5 CS in all of these lanes. Yeah, up 6 CS bot, 4 in mid, 8 top, as actually Quacker already up to a huge CS lead again, already over a full wave in after only a couple of waves have come through the lane.
Yeah, I want to direct your attention towards the top jungle right now, because Metro is stealing away the blue buff and is going to be able to steal away the Gromp. And so Raven Knight's going to take the Wolves, but didn't really have any vision of it. Finally going to notice, hey, where are my camps, man? And is going to have to recognize that everything got stolen away. And so this Wukong's probably not thrilled. Now you've got Raven Knight going into the jungle and trying to steal away the red. That red's not available, and so you're gonna have to settle for the Krugs. But as a whole, that's a fantastic move right there from Metro, because the entire bot side is still open, should have an advantage in that regard. This Raven Knight, and then Metro's coming back, wanted to steal even more. Metro, this is beautifully played.
And yeah, Quacker is going to move back to support his teammate, as in the bot, Bazby, they're going on to Skypeshire, going to get the exhaust down. Cleanse comes out to rid away the summoners. And in the end, it is just a bit of a summoner trade. The heal comes out from Bazby, the exhaust is cleansed away. And I suppose that is in technical favor of SCAD, but they did get a bit of damage, so CCG are in a decent bit of an advantage in the bot lane. They're down a couple pieces of farm, as SCAD gonna look potentially to maybe get a back off here. They're gonna move up to this scuttle, as in the top lane now Mr. Gaohui dashing forward, but Quacker with the shield will shield it all away. Now Metro in the Jarvan gonna try and fight on, being joined by his teammates. Breezy comes in, flash forward from the Wukong. Wukong trying to find everything in. Warrior Trickster diving in, Nimbus strike to get a bit of poke, but will not be able to get anything lethal. Curse of the Black Mist from the Senate will get them out, as in the top lane, Mr. Gaohui trying to put more pressure onto Quacker, is re-evened the CS difference at this point in the game, as now on the side lanes, kill pressure is enabled. Metro is quite low, but was able to back in time, and all of our solo laners at around half HP. In our bot lane as well, a couple of these players at some critical health levels, and so CCG for sure, both teams really will have to make sure to play very careful going into this next minute or two before these players can get some recalls off.
Yeah, you talked about having to play very careful. Skypeshire had to use both summoners right there, so that's Cleanse and Flashdown on this Callista. Hold on, Breezy wants more. Oh boy.
The Wukong is here. Breezy's gonna have to flash away. The Curse of the Mist will get them out once again. And fighting back in, Skypeshire actually takes a bit more damage, but Milio will be able to heal out with the Cozy Campfire. And yeah, Breezy wanted to get a bit aggressive, but the Wukong here in time to force them away. Raven Knight, very good map control so far. He's up 5 CS even after the early game incidents. And a very solid game by this Wukong, only a few minutes in.
Yeah, having to help out the bot side, ensure that they don't get dove or anything of that sort. because, again, no summoners on this Callista, so is in a prime position to die. Doesn't look like, just as a 2v2, Bazby and Breezy have enough damage or engage to keep that Callista locked down. And with Metro pathing towards the top side, I think Skypeshare should be fairly comfortable, but does mean that the Wukong is going to have to help out. You're talking about the advantage that they had gotten for themselves up some CS. But it does mean with the pathing, with this Wukong, and with the push on the bot side, Skypeshare with not a lot of health having to shove more waves. You look at this Jarvan, it's another free dragon, another first dragon for the CCG Future squad. Have done a really great job of prioritizing early objectives. We saw it in the first game, didn't give over a single dragon. In the second game, they're looking to keep the same thing going.
Yeah, a bit more poke here in this bottom side. Have to keep in mind the Milio is holding both summoners, so although it looks like they are both in lethal health with the heal available on Milio, not quite as risky as it seems, as Rave is going to have his back cancelled by the Tongue Lash. As taking another look around the map, just at these different farm totals, the bot lane will back for SCAD. Quacker's up about 10 farm top lane. I believe Rave Knight is Rave Knight is up just a couple of farm, pretty close to even in the mid lane as well, just 5 or 6 minions in favor of Frolic. And in the bot lane, they're about as even as you can get, 3 CS difference between the two teams. Of course, Senna has significantly less CS than Callista, but if you're adding up the two players' farms for the bot lane, they come out at just about the same total, 3 difference between them. So Quacker continuing to extend his lead, as I believe Talia will look to do the same, has the Orianna under tower, and a bit of a gold lead, tiny bit of a gold lead really for CCG, just about 200-300 gold at the moment, but they will look to grow that over time with that first dragon as a very good indicator for what could come of their future.
Yeah, pretty negligible gold lead across the board. You're talking about the CS. Mid and top, the solo lane's doing a great job for CCG Futures, getting their own leads ahead, doing good in that regard. But across the board, it's a 200, 100 gold difference. Really nothing, to be honest. So both teams are going to have to wait on their item spikes to really, take these fights. And this is a lot different than what we saw in Game 1. I think in Game 1 we saw both teams really ready to fight whenever they wanted, at all points in time. And this game, I think both teams are showing a lot more restraint, showing that they want to wait for the big team fights, wait for the big objectives. Last game, I think we saw a lot of the snowballing. This game, it's definitely a bit more of a build-up, per se. As we are seeing Metro on the top side. Both bot lanes are bot, and so if there was going to be a Rift Herald fight this early, it would have to be a 3v3. But with Rollick back on the Talia, it doesn't feel like they want to go for it. And so they're just going to have to sit back, wait. And I think a Rift Herald take could be in the near future, but it's not right now.
And yeah, another thing talking about that difference between the snowball and the buildup is actually it might be a bit of a snowball trying to form now. Exhaust is going to go on to Skypeshare, has the cleanse available, but opts not to use it, because they will just be able to back away. That summoner is going to go wide for Breezy, but taking a look at this top lane, it's just the facet of Rumble doesn't really have the opportunity to be super aggressive, as opposed to the Renekton, who's dashing in and out and poking and slicing and slashing. Rumble just kind of shoots some rockets and has a bit of a flamethrower, can get a tiny bit of move speed with with his shield. But it's just the difference of that pressure. Quacker on the Rumble doesn't really have the chance to instigate that pace of the game, and I would say that's what it was last game that was making everything so quick. It was Quacker forcing that lead. He was getting advantages, and then started to push those around the map, which sped up the entire pace of the game. But now that he's on that slower pick of the Rumble, he can't force full fights into this opposition Renekton, and the entire pace of the game has been slowed down based on this top lane.
Yeah, and you talk about that top lane difference as well. Because they're not on the Renekton, they don't feel comfortable enough just going for a straight slam of the Rift Herald. So it does go over to SCAD. They grab themselves that first Rift Herald. They roamed ruled by one up. They roamed Mr. Magoy down. and they were able to grab themselves that objective. So I believe that was the first neutral objective of the series that has been taken by SCAD. This is a much better game that we're seeing out of them. Still down a little bit of gold, but again, pretty negligible at this point. And they have themselves that Rift Herald as well, so they can even the gold up, maybe even potentially take the lead if they're able to drop it into a high priority lane. I would keep an eye on this bot side. It felt like they, in Game 1, played quite consistently into the bot side. They got BASB behind. It seems like their plan was going to ensure that Skypture NA was in a good position. I would not be surprised if this Wukong brings it bot and keeps this Kalista in a really good position this game.
And yeah, key thing to know there is looking at these tower healths. You see this first plate has just fallen in favor of CCG. The top tower is quite close to losing a plate as well. The mid tower already missing quite a sizable amount of HP, as the CS leads will continue to grow. About a 16 lead for the Rumble. Jungle is just about even. About a 10 lead for the Taliyah in mid. And right around a... I can't even add up these numbers. It's around a 15 CS lead in the bottom side of things. As, yeah, 10 CS lead in the 83 CS lead in the supports. And it will be a growing advantage for CCG, sitting at around a 1k gold lead right now. But as you say, that Rift Herald is being held by the Wukong, so they have the advantage to get close to even, or even potentially take the gold lead wherever they choose to drop that, assuming they set up for it properly. As I do believe our teams are fighting over this second dragon, or at least looking to fight, as CCG will be the ones in control of it. SCAD forced to simply walk away for the moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that SCAD can do right there. Skypture, NA, and Janikar are just getting shoved in consistently, and so if they want to go for the drag, they have to drop an entirety of a wave. Kalista back while taking damage, because thank you, League of Legends. It is going to be dropped in the mid lane, so the gold's going to be grabbed by this Orianna. Not a bad member to get gold on. It can be very strong as, whoa, Mr. McGoy going in for a big trade right there, but Quacker's able to even it up. I think we're not going to see a lot in the top side. And so they, you know, without recognition, Rave at Night is saying, you know what, if I get my Renekton ahead, sure, that's great, but is it going to win me the game? No, probably not. And so instead, going to try to ensure that the Orianna could potentially carry this game. And it's necessary as well, because we were talking about that mid lane CS disadvantage. Ruled by One is not in the best of positions. Not, you know, terribly far behind, but has lost a plate or two. You know, is down in CS as well, and so by dropping the Rift Herald, you're keeping this Orianna in the lane, keeping this Orianna in the game, and ensuring that they don't get outscaled by the Taliyah.
And yeah, one thing I do want to note on looking at these compositions as well is looking at the side of SCAD, their only real magical damage threat is the Orianna. So especially for someone like Breezy, a tank who thinks maybe he's not going to get as targeted by the Orianna. Orianna's looking for some poke maybe on the easier to damage targets, as of course Tom Kench always going to have his shield, always going to have a lot of health. But actually it's going to be a dive up to the top now. Metro's going in, Cataclysm, and our Ramen Bull is here. The first blood over to Quacker, Equalizer into Cataclysm, as now a trade onto the bot side. A Kalista, Fate's Call, not quite going to force anything major, but they will continue to fight on. Skype here trying to dash in a ton of spears into BASB, but it will not be enough to put any real meaningful damage on. Kalista ult will go basically wide, as the bot CS diff continues to grow in favor of CCG. Still about 10 farm up at the moment. 2k gold lead down for CCG, especially with that 2-drag lead.
Yeah, I think we're starting to see the MO. We're starting to see the plan come into fruition from CCG Futures, and I think the plan is just one big whiteboard with one word on it, which is Quacker, because they have been pretty much solely focused in these last two games on getting Quacker ahead. On game one, it was Quacker getting the advantage on the Renekton, and then Metro diving the Cassante, pushing the Cassante off of the turret, dropping the Rift Herald, and, you know, making sure that Quacker was in a great place to carry the game on the Renekton. And in game two, Quacker didn't have as big of a lead as, you know, we expected after game one, but was still doing good for themselves. And then Metro coming in, dropping the Cataclysm along with the Equalizer. Bing, bang, boom, easy as you like it. That's a first blood going over, and it's kind of tough because if you're SCAD, you're saying, well, first game we played really tight. We tried to just trade, go for these skirmishes, continuously fight. It didn't work out. Game two, we're going to go slow. We're going to find the perfect engage and wait for that. And CCG Future said, yeah, don't worry, we win that way as well. we will also wait for the perfect fight, and we are just going to execute it even better than you will. And so CCG Futures will SCAD this entire time. We're waiting to pull the trigger. They were just biding their time, and they get themselves the first blood.
Yeah, Jarvan is going to get jumped on. Metro going to have to back away in his own jungle. As the Rift Herald is alive, we see some of our players already rotating up. The bot lane is moving up for the side of SCAD. Leah has moved to cover the CCG, but Rave at Night, Cataclysm is on very low, trying to find it with the Equalizer. Rave at Night will get taken down. Quacker, shot in the dark, gets the tick on, and with the Demonic Embrace, he will burn alive. And Wukong is taken down as the Rift Herald pressure completely sided toward them. No jungler for SCAD means they can't really continue the contest on this objective. And the rotations coming around the map. Kalista currently holding the Talia bot solo as Quacker putting up massive amounts of damage. Has that demonic finished. Renekton just not quite yet at that item. Holding on to two major components, trying to get it back off now, but it's being denied by Quacker. As in the mid lane, more and more farm going over in favor of Breezy. And actually, Rowling may have a chance to kill Skypture. Lots of damage going on. Rocks going in and forces the flash. Talia almost gets it with that threaded volley, but can't quite make the last rock connect. Flash gets out in time as the Herald comes out and the gold lead continuing to grow for CCG, now just about hitting a 4,000 gold lead before the Herald charge. And it is starting to get out of control. SCAD need to do something to re-even the game soon.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was about to say the same thing. In game one, it was stop fighting. We don't need to fight, SCAD. You guys can wait for the perfect engage. In game two, it's when are you going to fight? And this might be the opportunity here.
Going in, it's going to be the Orianna ult to pull into Metro being held in by a life's breath. Devour is going to give him the massive shield for a moment. Skypture is going to get taken down, very low HP, can't quite find it. Now Jarvan flashing in. Cataclysm holding down 3. They're locked in, but there is no equalizer coming down quite yet from Quacker. In the overheat, I don't believe he could cast it at that moment. Trying to find some poke with those electro harpoons, but just cannot quite make them connect. And it didn't go completely in their favor, but considering the situation with the 3 in that Cataclysm, things could have gone a lot worse than they ended up going for SCAD.
Yeah, things could have gone a lot worse, but things could have gone a lot better as well. It still is a 2-for-1, and across the board, SCAD is just getting bled out of this game. They're only down 4-1 in kills, but at the end of the day, they just haven't really been able to do enough. This could be a potential fight onto Ralik here.
Trying to find this pick. Metro's going to get here. Can't quite peel in time. Rave is going to fall, fighting into 3 at the moment. Breezy going to get that kill, but it's fighting forward now. Equalizer comes out. Skypture forced to use the cleanse on this player, but it's not going to matter. Quacker's going to get that burn away. Now flying in, Jarvan trying to get as much CC as possible, but the actual blast cone will knock him away. Now Mr. G trying to dash away on the Renekton, but flashing forward is Breezy. Orianna ult going to knock them back. The shockwave going to force them back for a moment, but Janakar on the Milio taken down, ruled by 1 on the Orianna, fighting into 3 very low health targets. Cannot make a kill happen. Metro dashes in, will not get taken down. And it is a 4-for-1 for CCG, and they push their gold lead up to just over 6,000 gold, and they will potentially have the ability to reset and refight for this dragon once again.
Yeah, this is the CC Futures that I think everybody wanted to see at the beginning of the season. They were 0-3. This was a squad that was not living up to the potential, the squad that they had built for themselves, a team full of what people expected to be winners. We're losing quite a lot, but we're starting to see that they can definitely be winners as they're going to force them off of the dragon. We're going to have another fight here.
Yeah, Breezy's taking a lot of damage, but the Cataclysm comes out. 1 will fall, 2 will fall,
goodness.
3 will fall. Metro a double kill, and now it's Wukong and Orianna on the run, dashing in. The flag drag from Metro is going to put Rave at Night inside of this Talia wall as he will fall as well. And now Talia trying to chase down, ruled by 1. But even as things stand, it is a 4-for-0 for CCG. If you're connecting these 2 fights together, 8-for-1 for CCG as that gold lead is going to grow and grow. The 3rd dragon is secured. Soul point on that Hextech dragon for CCG. Ruled by 1 almost finds the pick on Bazby, inches away from that shockwave connecting, but the flash is forced. Worm hugs now for Ruled by 1 is fighting for this blue, trying to get it, and I'm not sure who it goes in favor of. As we take a flick down to the bot side, Quacker completely harassing Skypture for more and more farm. 176 farm on that Rumble. As the Raven Knight getting picked out potentially here, but he will try and ult in with it. Cyclone comes out for Wukong. Lots of damage. Quacker forced to flash away, but he ends up fail flash. Can't quite get over that wall, a bit too far. Metro fights in. They are able to get one with Ralik over the wall, but on the exit of the fight, a 2-for-1 in favor of SCAD, as they will potentially show a bit of what they need to do to get back into this game with those picks.
Yeah, that was fantastic what they were able to find. They just need to do that 8 more times, because that dropped the gold lead from 9,000 to 8,000. So that was great. You found the perfect engage. Quacker and Metro were alone. They didn't have the rest of the team beside them. It's fantastic, you know? You just have to do that 8 more times. Easy peasy, right? I don't mean to be a doomer about this one, but if you're SCAD, the fact that you are in this fantastic position, or that you get such a fantastic position, you get that kill onto 2 high priority members, you know, with those shutdowns, things look great, and then you look at the goal difference, which obviously they cannot, but they, you know, they look at the game state, and things look pretty much the same. As just a little demoralizing, you'd imagine, because the fact of the matter is, they waited. They didn't really take fights for the first 15 minutes of the game. They fell 5,000 behind. Then they decided, well, okay, we need to fight at some point. We might as well fight now. They go, I think, 8 for 2 across the board through 2 fights, and now they're down 9,000. They're able to find 2 kills of their own, and they only get 1,000 back. That's just, it's not created equal, my friend. Those are not the same. It's going to be a knock-up onto Raven Knight. It gets bad to worse.
Yeah, the equalizer comes out. Raven Knight will fall to Breezy. Now Mr. G trying to get away from Quacker, but the Electro Harpoons will tie him down. And a flag Ralik on the other side. There's no escape for the Crocodile. And that is another ingredient added to the ramen bowl, as a nice little bit of, fried crocodile or alligator being added to our mixture. Baron being taken at the moment, as Tom Kench trying to zone this. Milio's actually might be caught out, potentially going to have the move speed to escape. He will indeed, but the Baron falls to CCG, and now it is a decent bit of time of absolute terror, as CCG will look to remove just about every tower remaining on the map over the next pair of minutes.
Yeah, and again, I don't like to call games over before they end, but this game is over. I think this game is over, barring any crazy changes, across the map, and anybody doing anything that's really unwarranted. I just don't see a world where CCG Futures bottles this one. They've got all the ingredients they might need in this miso bowl to make a delicious meal for themselves and to push themselves into a great position, ruled by one. Just trying to take a wave, just trying to do whatever they can, but a Cataclysm's going to lock them up. It's going to ensure that the Orianna is dead, and they're going to continue to push into the side.
Now Wukong coming in, the Cyclone's available, will go out with the Equalizer, gonna burn him alive. Bazby will be the one to clean up the kill, and it will be the Renekton falling as well, trying to slice, trying to dice, but he cannot find the success that Quacker did on the pick. Metro will tank up a few tower shots, but now it is the big fish, Breezy, tanking them all up. Skypture will fall, the flag drag for Metro will secure that kill, and the Milio runs back towards his base on his own. Lost boy in the forest, loses all 4 of his closest friends, as now it is a 5v1, flooring forward, looking to once again remove as many of these towers, as many of these structures as they can, while this Baron buff remains.
Yeah, it's a depressing way to put it. All of the friends dead, having to run back home, but it's not inaccurate. It's a tragedy, and it's going to continue going on. Raven Knight, I don't think your tower's going to save you, my friend. This Wukong is going to get slapped down. There's another inhibitor going to fall. I mean, realistically, they could potentially go for an end here.
Yeah, they have the pressure. Fortunately for the side of SCAD, they do actually get a kill onto Quacker, as 2 of their low health, both of their solo laners, will make it back to their fountain on a sliver of health. Quacker not going to be able to find those kills, and that's really a silver lining at this point. It's the good thing inside of the horrible situation. They're able to get a kill. They don't lose out on another pair of deaths. But hiding out in this jungle now, it could potentially be another fight coming out from the side of CCG, as they're playing for this soul. They're trying to burn 3 players zoning for it, and losing this frag is horrible for the side of SCAD, but they don't have a way to get it. They can't get to the pit, as Breezy gonna try and take this Hex Tech portal, diving in Cyclone. Now they have a chance. Senna is gonna fall to the hands of Raven Knight, fighting forward. Metro very low, being pricked like a porcupine, taken down. And now Breezy and Rollick trying to fight forward. Breezy will find the kill onto our Wukong. However, diving backward, Rollick not going to be able to escape on an inch. Actually, I thought Rollick was doomed, but maybe has a chance longer. Rollick going to zone it away. Equalizer comes out, and Quacker is respawned. Ruled by one, has to flash away. Gaohui has to slice and dice over the wall, but Quacker jumping it will take down one. Gaohui, now Shockwave comes out, will be ruled by one, getting that kill back. Ignite goes on to ruled by one. Breezy gonna dive forward with the Tom Kench, gonna take a voyage across this wall. Fighting up now Breezy with the Jack Show, with the Sunfire, with the Bramble. Can he tank it up? And indeed he will. Skypester removes himself. The tongue lash into the Hex Tech Soul will kill away the last player for CCG. Now it's Rowlick versus Raven Knight and Janakar fighting in the base. Now Senna gonna come in for aid. Raven Knight, an inch of health. Threaded volley coming out. Can't quite pick off this Wukong, but Rowlick has the pressure of the base. They don't have a teammate to join, but Rowlick hitting the Nexus. Half health. Much more intense Nexus. Raven Knight trying to get, but Rowlick threaded volley to zone, and Rowlick will keep hitting it. Gaohui is here, but it will not matter. Rowlick will hit the Nexus to close it out at 60 minutes, at 26 minutes, 10 seconds with a massive kill lead, a massive gold lead. Rowlick will live just long enough to close off the Nexus, and CCG Futures will secure their playoff spot with a 2-0 victory versus SCAD.
Yeah, they had places to be, Colonel. I think that they had Friday plans, because that was 50 minutes of gameplay we saw combined. There's 24 minutes in the first game. This one took a little longer at 26 minutes. That was light work for CCG Futures. I think normally you want to try to frame it as, oh, it was back and forth. There were certain moments that could have gone either way. It really felt like they just choked the life out of their opponents right there. And it was a valiant effort, we'll say, from SCAD, but at the end of the day, CCG Futures just got in, did their work, and left. A very, very easy series for them, as they take care of business and punch their ticket towards the playoffs. The 0-3 start into the 3-3. Finally, they end at 4-3, and they enter the playoffs as one of the hottest teams in the league as well. In a really, really good position to potentially make some upsets. We'll have to see. Obviously that's in the future. But as for today, as for this do or die matchup, it did not even look close. They did what needed to do. They took care of business. They came in, they left, and they put themselves in a fantastic position to win the game. So I think we will have an interview with one of the members. I imagine, we won't. We'll wait to decide who our MVP is, and we'll bring them in, and we'll be able to interview them. So we're going to go to a quick break. We'll bring them in for a final interview as the last game of the regular season closes out. Welcome back to CCG Esports. It was a dominant 2-0 victory for CCG Futures. The squad makes their way into the playoffs, and we have our MVP. It was a tough decision. I'm just joking. It was obviously always going to be Quacker, Colonel. Both you and I agreed pretty heavily on this one. A fantastic game in the top lane. A fantastic series on two different unique champions. The Renekton and then obviously the Rumble. Two are champions, actually. Kind of fun. It was a huge issue. And throughout the series showed the skill and being able to win out lane by themselves. Very Bin-esque, we'll say. And we actually do have the man himself joining us here. So we will bring Quacker in for a little post-match or post-series interview. Quacker, I'd like to introduce you. Welcome to the cast. First of all, I'll start the questioning. Congratulations on the win. I just want to start with saying, we mentioned it on cast a little bit. 0-3 start for CCG Futures. I know that a bunch of casters, I myself included, were saying that, we feel like the CCG Futures squad should be doing a lot better than they were. And you guys immediately turned it around, knock off 4 straight, making it shift from starting winless against some really difficult teams to just taking care of business week in and week out.
Yeah, I mean, about that, I'm not sure if it's like straight up that well known, but I don't think most of this team was the same whenever we got those 2 losses. But yeah, I mean, music was like on vacation or like out of the country, so we weren't really playing. We were waiting for him to get back, I guess, and then we put together some roster changes, and ever since it's been pretty smooth. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that one.
And yeah, for sure. Let's talk about your matchups for a second. In the first game, you had a super dominant performance on the Renekton. Going into the second game where you were facing that same champion, did you have any fears looking at the champion that you just did so well on, or were you super confident on that Rumble pick?
Oh, I mean, I was pretty chill. I mean, as for the Rumble pick, it's not like my most comfortable ever, but I know my Renekton matchups pretty well, so I think whether I'm piloting the Renekton or play against it, I will be in a pretty good spot. So yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, we were talking about the draft in game two. We mentioned the fact that the Jarvan wasn't picked first in the first two picks for you guys. We were fully expecting the Jarvan to be banned away or picked by the SCAD boys. They completely left it open for you guys, and you guys made what we coined the spicy miso bowl, where you had the Rumble and the Jarvan. It felt like that combo was just too good to be true. Were you kind of surprised by some of the draft decisions, or did you think that they kind of had their own strategy? What was the thought process behind that?
I mean, I don't remember exactly what they banned on the second game, on the second rotation, but I do know that they picked the Wukong into Jarvan, and that's like supposed to be a pretty good matchup for Wukong, I think. So maybe that was their plan, that they could just give away the Jarvan and then have this counter pick. But I mean, it still went pretty well for us. So yeah.
And then, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
you
Another
guys.
question asking, is there any I'm trying to think of the best way to word this without saying something I'm not trying to. Were there any fears when the second game didn't start off as dominant as the first game, or were you guys good with playing it slow, trying to scale into the victory that you ended up getting?
As for that, I don't think we were really worried. I mean, we were getting every dragon, and then our champs aren't even like our champs that we drafted, like Rumble, Jarvan, Tilia. They're not that strong early. I mean, they're not weak early for sure, but they're definitely kind of more like mid game spikers. So we just knew if we're getting the dragons and they have like a Kalista that's kind of falling off, then we're in a pretty good spot. So yep.
Yeah, I think the last question for both of us is talking about the playoffs, right? It's hard not to look at playoffs. You guys were kind of a far throwaway. You got your full team together, like you were just talking about, and everything was just like music's namesake, just kind of coming together, making this beautiful melody. You do end up making playoffs, and I think you're one of the hottest teams in the league right now, rattling off 4 straight wins. Do you think that other teams should be concerned by any means? Do you think that other teams should be worried about you guys, even though you're not a top seed, because you guys are doing so well these last 4 weeks?
I mean, I'll say that they should definitely have their outs. They shouldn't disrespect. I think some people look at like how my last split ended and how like music's last split ended, and they're like, oh, these guys just got relegated. They're not that good. But I mean, I still think we kind of have a pretty high skill level, and also, I mean, I've been able to like mentally reset since the end of last split. So yeah, it's been looking a lot better since then.
Yeah, trying to make it all the way back to the promised land, Mr. Quacker. I respect it. This is a very strong ACL. Look, man, there's a lot of good teams in the
Yeah,
ACL
yeah.
this split. And you're trying to prove to everybody that you can do it once again. Hey, look, if you keep out rattling off performances like those today, I think it'll be hard for anybody to say you cannot. So congratulations once again on the victory. That will end the
Thank
broadcast
you.
here for us at CCG. But luckily, as Quacker and Co. were able to do, we're going to have playoffs coming up with CCG Futures along with this CCG main squad. So you're going to want to stay here with CCG, continue to have fantastic matchups. Not only this title, many other video games. I feel like CCG's kind of got you covered across the board. Maybe one of these days we'll get Quacker on CSGO, see how he fares.
Maybe,
We'll
yeah,
have to
maybe, yeah.
see it. We'll have to see. At the end of the day, that is going to end it here this Friday night. Thank you for joining us on the CCG Futures Cast. We will continue to bring you great content. Have a lovely weekend.